Hey everyone, Drewby's Apiary here. Today is March the 3rd, and we are out at the original yard getting ready to check on a split. I know it's been a couple weeks since I last did a video, and if you pay attention, some of these hives are a little bit taller than the last time I had them out here. So I was out here a week ago, and all of them were filled to the brim of bees at this yard. And so I added super boxes to the rightmost 4 over there, and just to quell the swarm impulse, because I am going to split them, but I'm hoping I can do it under my own terms when I'm ready here in like a week. But this orange hive right here already had swarm cells, not yet capped. They were wet. And so in the middle right here, you can kind of see, this is one of those Snell divider boards, right? This is a very easy way to make splits. And essentially what we're doing today is, I didn't have time when I was here a couple days ago to find the queen. So I divided it. Up top is where actually the swarm cells are at. So in those 2 super boxes, there are swarm cells in there. There's a chance the queen is up there, assuming she hasn't already left. And so my goal today is to just ensure that she is either hopefully in the bottom, and that there aren't any swarm cells down there. But we just want to make sure that we know what is what, if that makes any sense. We just want to make sure we know where our queen is. We want to make sure we know where our swarm cells are, and hoping that we can make, ultimately, instead of just the 1, 2 hives here, when a new queen is mated. So without further ado, I'm going to go into this hive, and this video is probably going to be a longer one, because I'm hoping I can compile it of all the different yards that I'm going to be doing splits on. And so not really sure when I'm going to release this video, but we will see when I get to it. So without further ado, I'm going to get started over here. So we're working our way through the orange hive. It's extremely windy. We're supposed to be getting gusts up to 40 miles an hour potentially, anywhere between 20 and 40 later today, depending on what part of Georgia you live in. And so I'm trying to get this done quickly. The crazy thing is, I mean, it's a nice day as far as temperature is concerned. It's in the low mid 60s. Bees are flying, even though they're getting blown every direction. But yeah, they'll probably be heading in here very shortly, because they probably know it's about to not only start raining but start heavily storming. So just kind of show you what we're working with. Like I said, these are just supers, but they're bringing in a lot. I have been feeding them, but I'm gonna be honest, I think some of this might not even be that. I think they're getting some natural stuff somewhere. Just making sure we don't have a queen up top anywhere. Don't see anything, don't see anything. And again, my hope when I'm doing this inspection is that she is in the bottommost box. One thing to keep in mind, depending on how you all are comfortable with catching queens, again, I'm still not the spot. I'm still not where I'm grabbing them by hand. I usually just use like a little catcher, like this little, either the metal or the plastic. Make sure you inspect these before you try to catch a queen. Sometimes these little slits that are in the actual trap, whether they got dinged up or widened, sometimes they'll get widened up in one direction, where even if you put a queen in here, she can fit through. So just make sure when you put a queen in here, watch her for at least a minute and see if she's able to navigate out. Because I've lost a queen one time where I put her in one of these thinking she was contained and secured, and there was a little dent where the metal grate was pushed in just enough where she could squeeze through, and I lost her for a time. Luckily I found her. She hadn't walked very far, but I could have just lost her. Usually, you know, they're smart enough to try to go back to wherever home is, but you can't always assume that's going to be the case. So I will start the video back up if I end up finding her, but I'm gonna just keep working my way down. All right, I didn't really show you guys me going through, because honestly it was like a 15-minute struggle to even figure out if I had a queen in one side or the other. That's the one thing, once this box starts getting pretty tall, it gets a little bit harder to not only find your queen but figure out where she's at. Obviously the best thing you can do is look to see if you have eggs in a box. The problem is I was out here 2-3 days ago, and so both boxes have relatively freshly hatched eggs, so it's kind of hard to tell what was the more recent. But I did determine, fortunately, that in this bottom half below this Snell board, so below this right here, the queen's definitely in there. I definitely saw fresh eggs, as in, you know, little rice grains, whereas up here in these two skinny supers where I'm making new queens, and I'll try to show that when I come back out here later in the video to cut some out. But I mean, there was maybe 8 swarm cells, most of which were capped. I'm probably going to come back out here, harvest some of those queen cells, and either use them once I'm going to try to get a few more of these delivered here soon. I'm going to put one on top of every one of those, assuming they don't have swarm cells now since I've expanded them, and just make splits with the queen cells that are in this orange hive. So, but yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much it. That took a lot longer than I would have liked. Here's the rear entrance. So all the bees that are in these top 2 boxes are coming in and out of here to avoid confusion of in the front. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will, next part of the video, hopefully I can either start showing you some of those splits being made, or maybe splits being made or moving stuff around in other yards. Hey everyone, Drew B's Apiary here. We're out here at Apiary yard number 3. We're just doing some splits today. As you can tell, these were the original 3 hives that have been out here for about a year now. It's about 60 some degrees out. Let's see, today's date, I believe is the 4th. It is the, yeah, 4 March. I know this is all the same video, and I know I've reintroduced myself a second time now, but just kind of showing you that this is a different day than the first day of recording. What we got going on here, of the original 3, this hive right here, the far left one, was not strong enough yet to split. Did not seem to have a swarm impulse. I gave them, though, an extra box, super box, so that way they had some room. This one, unfortunately, looks like it already swarmed. I know, it's kind of frustrating. Missed them maybe by a couple days to a week. We've had really rainy weather the past 2 days, and this morning was gorgeous. So it's very possible that, I mean, they could have swarmed this morning, but I doubt it. You know, more realistically, she swarmed with some bees a couple days ago, probably right before the weather hit. So, you know, it's kind of a shame because I got a swarm trap hung up in the field way over there, and I'll check it in a bit, but I don't expect anything. Still a lot of bees in here, so she didn't take a whole lot with her, but unfortunately, yeah, there's no queen. There are swarm cells that are capped, and again, that's usually a sign. When you see capped swarm cells, she's probably gone. So I'm getting ready to seal them up. This one still had its queen, but they had capped swarm cells. You know, usually when swarm cells are capped, it's usually a good sign that you don't have a queen in here anymore, that she swarmed, but I caught her just in time, and I have moved her over here to these boxes. So hoping the cold weather is gone, but here in Georgia you never know. I'm using a 5-frame Snell divider board right here, so it's double screen on the bottom, screen on the top. And so these are 2 different colonies. The colony up here has the marked yellow queen from last year, the old queen from that hive, inside, and I'm about to give her an extra frame, seal them up. They're already sealed up. They've got capped swarm cells in here, so hoping that they can make a queen. And then in here, I'm about to close them up. They have capped swarm cells as well. And I'm about to put a feeder in there for them, just so they have something to eat while they try to make a queen. So, but yeah, just wanted to give you guys an update. I'll put it on a time lapse so you can kind of watch me, and then I'm gonna roll out of here after that. All right, so we're out here at apiary yard number 4. This is the yard that I had probably the biggest losses this past fall. This yard started, let me kind of show you around. Right now we have 4 hives right here, right? Going into October, there was, let me think about this for a second, there were 5 over here, so I lost 2 on this side, and this side had 4. So, yeah, not too great. So, like I said, in total I lost pretty much half of all the hives in this yard did not make it, whether they froze. In fact, none of them starved. They all either froze, they just didn't have a big enough cluster, or, you know, maybe the treatments that I'd given them for mites were just not enough or were not as effective, and the mites, you know, caused one problem on another. I can tell you one absconded. That was right here. I mentioned that in a previous video. They just straight left. There was like no dead bees in the hive. They left in like early November, late October. And like I said, the other 3 over here froze to death over different periods of time. And then I had one over here that froze to death. Actually, no, I think the other 2 did as well. They didn't have big enough colonies, just not big enough populations. But I'm out here today just trying to recover my losses by making some splits. And really, today, the only hive I'm splitting is this one right here that had the red stone on top of it. So this one's crazy strong. They already have some uncapped swarm cells, but with royal jelly and larvae, so they're getting ready to. As I go further down the box, like I said, this is just a super. There's no queen excluder in here, so the queen was laying even up in this super box. And I'll show it to you up here close in a second what some swarm cells being drawn looks like. But again, this is a huge population. I'm hoping as I go through down here that, you know, my guess is there's probably going to be a capped swarm cell or something. I'm just hoping I can find my queen and move her to one of my little 5-frame Nuck splits over here. If not, we're just going to have to just call it a loss and just hope that they can make some new ones. But my guess is, because of how big this population is, they either are getting ready to swarm, which they obviously are, or already have. But there's a lot of bees, so we'll find out. So let me just set this down and then I will show you what I'm talking about. So right here, heavy super box. Right now this hive is very heavy. Try to see if I can show you. It's kind of hard to tell, but see right here at the bottom, there is it hasn't been drawn out yet, but there is a little bit of, there's an egg and a larva in there. So like I said, that will be drawn out and become a queen. So right now I'm not gonna crush it, because as you know, as much as you want to keep your hives from swarming, I'm actually going to encourage it for purposes of making splits. If I didn't want to do that, I'd be crushing that right now, and there'd be time to prevent this hive from doing what it would do. But it's a lot of brood up in here, so I'm just kind of organizing these hives and just seeing where things are. But like I said, they will definitely make a new queen, and my goal is, I'm hoping I can find her in here, assuming she's still in here, and move her. Just easier to leave old resources and move bees than the other way around. So we are going to see what we find. Oh, it's blowing ash. Like I said, it's a beautiful day here. Today is Sunday. I think today's the 5th or the 6th. I don't got my days. All right, let's see what day it is. Sunday the 5th. It's probably in the mid 60s right now, so it's a great time to get out and work your bees. Pack full of bees. I'm also checking the super box, because even though I don't believe the queen's going to be up here, you never know. It's always good to check, especially if you're trying to save yourself a lot of time. Work your way up, moving down, because she's most likely to run down. Last thing you want to do is be taking boxes off, setting them on the ground, and you're hunting in the deep, and she's been up in the top all along. So I try to encourage her to run to the bottom as much as I can to expedite this process. But I will say, my hope is that she's in here too, because I did see some larvae or eggs that's only like a few days old. So I'm hoping she hasn't quite left yet. I know she was in here within the week because of the development of some of the eggs and larvae that I saw, but obviously if we see fresh eggs, like little rice grains in the bottom, then we know she definitely is probably gonna be in here. But we're not at that point yet. So I'm gonna keep going through this, put it on a time lapse, and then I will stop if I have something of import to show you all. So as I was going through the upper deep, found our queen, our old queen from last year. There she is, moving around. She's definitely a little sluggish. She barely has any of her yellow paint on her back anymore, but again, we're moving her. We're gonna take her over to one of these boxes. So I'll move the camera, we'll go do that. See if I can do this. I'm gonna set you down right here. Put her in there. Alright, as you can see, I'm going to keep moving the camera, folks, but right here we've got her inside on one of these frames that has a little bit of honey, but not just her, but plenty of unhatched brood. And so our goal is we're gonna, with this split, we're gonna probably put some room for her to grow, as in, like, we're gonna, not only we're gonna try to fill this up with all 5 frames, but we primarily just want space for her to lay. Because if at any point in time during this split, keep in mind that that's about to be a queenless hive right there in a second, right? I'm hoping as I go through this inspection that there are other swarm cells in there that they're gonna make a split with. But if not, we need her to be our primary layer, so that way if we need to take out frames of brood to give to this soon-to-be split or back to the original colony, we can do that, because it's going to take, you know, almost a month for that hive to not only have hopefully a mated queen, but for her to be laying enough eggs that are going to hatch in such a time that they're going to be productive coming into the spring. So, you know, you definitely want her, wherever you've moved your queen to during the split, to have the space available for her to just pack it in with brood. So I'm gonna grab some more frames over here. Let's see what else we can take. And like I said, I'm not taking anything from these two at all. They're not gonna be split today. They're getting there. This one might have a chance of being split here within the next week. I might do a little bit more of an in-depth inspection today. This one 100% not strong enough. They need to build up. Not strong enough. They need to build up. So let's keep going through this one, see what else we can find. Again, the hope is, as I'm going through here, that I find swarm cells. There's plenty of room on this one. So we're actually gonna give this to her. She'll have a lot of room to lay. So moving this over to here. This is just empty space. There's bees on it, but there's very little nectar. There's just like a little bit of nectar in here. And we're gonna give that to her. in this box. That'll set her up for success. Put it like there. Okay. Good. And again, just keep packing it in. Keep working the way we're working. All right. Like I said, definitely not splitting this one. This one doesn't have as massive of a cluster as I thought. But while I was in there, I caught the queen that is in here. It has a white mark on her back. I don't know if it's able for you guys to tell. So that means this queen was born in 2021. So she's pretty old. She's coming up on 2 years old now. I can tell also, not only just because of that, of her being old, but her laying pattern is very spotty. When you see bees, the brood pattern's not a tight cluster, it's just all over the place as to where the brood is being laid. You can tell that she's running out of essentially genetic material to be able to lay properly. Like she's getting towards the end of her lifespan. You know, most queens can live, you know, 3-4 years apparently. She's trying to poke her head out. I'm about to put her back here in the box. I just wanted to show you all that. In fact, let's do that right now. Let's get her back home. Make her tilt it like that. She can just walk right down. There we go. All right. Oh, so she's back in there. We'll have them check on her. But again, she's getting very old. And to be honest with you, she probably needs to be replaced this year. They may even replace her this year. They may see that she's just not cutting it. You know, when the queens get, you know, some beekeepers will requeen every year. I understand why they do that. Again, with her now being a full, you know, 2 years old and seeing what I'm seeing, it makes sense. So this might be one of the situations where I come back to here. I might put a note in my folders. This is the time of the year I need to start doing a better job of note keeping, to annotate in here that, hey, if I can replace her or get them to make a brand new queen, if I even get a queen cell from one of my swarms, I may come back here and unfortunately replace her with that, because when they're laying weak patterns like this, it's gonna set up the colony not for success later in the year. So yeah. So we'll see about that. I just wanted to show you all that. I'm gonna button them up real quick. I'm sure they're annoyed with me. All right. And honestly, it kind of makes sense. I should have known this little green rock up here. This helped me know that it was from the original green hive at the original apiary. So that queen that we just saw, she's traveled from apiary yard number 1, and I must have done a split with the green queen that's over at, or the green hive, I should say, the queen that's in there. She was one born last year, so that was the daughter of this one that we just saw. And so this is the original green queen. But again, she's coming towards the end of her time frame, and I would not be surprised if this is her, you know, maybe even her last spring. So without further ado, I'm gonna just take these. I was double checking to see if there were any swarm cells in here, but there weren't. Again, not strong enough beehive. We're gonna just take all 5 of these frames right here and move them into the other nuc box. There's no swarm cells in this, unfortunately, but there's a lot of drawn brood, or I'm sorry, not drawn brood. There's a lot of recently hatched brood, eggs in general, and they're that the bees are going to hopefully be able to turn into a queen cell. So I'm going to start transferring them over into that box, and then we're going to get out of here, because I've had these hives open for too long, but I had a lot I wanted to check, and I'm glad that I was able to. So all right, that's pretty much it for today. Probably don't need to show anything else as far as splits are concerned. Like I said, these were all essentially either walk away or with swarm cells. I kind of mentioned at the first yard that was using or basically using a Snell board, divider board, to make a split where there was a queen in one end with no swarm cells and swarm cells on the other end, hoping that side on the other side of the board makes a queen. We talked about that. We went to apiary yard number 2 or 3, I guess it's number 3, under that big tree. And that was one where we used a nook. Same thing, we were either moving queens around or using divider boards to encourage the other side of the divider board to make a queen that had swarm cells. The nice thing with those divider boards, they help keep the entire colony, both sides, even though they're divided, warm. Out here, I'm not using any divider boards. All we did was we took old queen from here, moved her into the white box. We took eggs and brood from that same one, moved them into the brown box. Basically, that entire 10 frame deep box that was on top of this one just got split in 2. So there's 10 frames in a box, 5 frames went into there, 5 frames went into there. This one has no swarm cells, so we're hoping that they have enough bees to draw out and make their own queen cells. These two are this one's middling at best. I mean, I think they're gonna still make it. They have enough food and stuff, but you never really know. March is one of those times where you just never know what's gonna happen, but these were in neither good condition to do any splitting with today. So one thing to keep in mind is these were splits that were done in the same yard. So bees that got moved into these yards, if any of them were foragers, and these two, they are going to return to that box right there, which means there's gonna be a lot less bees in this box. The only advantage is I packed this one full of bees, hoping that a lot of them are gonna be nurse bees that are gonna stay behind, or there's the soon to be hatched, because there's a lot of brood in there that's gonna hatch out here shortly, that's gonna stay oriented to that hive. That should be enough to keep them warm. And again, we have a queen in here, so she'll continue to lay. But obviously, since this hive just lost a lot of bees, hoping all the foragers that return are gonna help increase their numbers. So not to worry about them, but like I said, just wanted to share that today. I said it's a gorgeous day today. Hoping over the next month we can make some more splits and keep recovering our numbers. So hope you guys are having similar luck. Those of you that are making splits, put in the comments below as to swarms, anything you've seen in your area. Obviously, I've already lost one hive, or not lost one hive to a swarm, but I've definitely had a swarm from one of my hives that I didn't catch in time. So here in north central Georgia, that's what we're seeing, is swarm season is here. So if you're not trying to get on top of it, making your splits or preventing your hives from splitting, or swarming, I should say, you know, just be prepared for that, because it is going to happen. It definitely started early this year. So hope you all have a good weekend. Whenever you are watching this, you all take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.